what we call soul migration is actually the implosion of charge that propagates living plasma from the Earth through the heart of the sun and onward. And that process requires, Schumann harmonics to be phase conjugate, and they messed with it for many years. The nuclear generators inside the hollow metal artificial Andromedan moon are breaking down rapidly, and that means that the Van Allen belts are returning to normal, and that means that more humans will have bliss experience. Actually, it means the ones who are ready will actually migrate. The ones who are not ready will go nuts faster. So it's quite a story.
Let's get into the story. Let's get into the Orion Wars as you understand them, because there's very little, obviously, that's written on the Orion Wars. It's mostly channeled and memories, and so curious your interpretation of the Orion Wars. How how did you learn about them essentially, and what can you share?
Yeah, I have been writing about the Orion Wars for 30 years. goldenmean.info/Orion. I actually, for Gaia TV, I built the first golden spiral on the pyramids at Giza, pointing to Orion. I built their first animation on that myself. But there was a definite breakthrough when I teamed up with Elena Danaan, who has a lot of personal contact with Thor Han and the present Federation, which is the update to that story. The earlier versions of that story, very useful, come through Anton Parks, for example, who has done beautiful work, the Dark Stars, on the history of Enki. But he's not updated that. Enki is, in fact, back in Ganymede outside of Jupiter. And so his actual name is Ea, for whom Earth was named. And their issue is the resolution of the Orion Wars. So when I first started talking about this, and I at that time knew a lot of the Montauk survivors, and I said, well, the human race was a vaccine for the Orion Wars. And actually, it turns out I was right, and let me explain. The Orion Wars are actually mostly involved the Draco, and to some extent the Gray. And what happened was, there's two parts of this story. The Draco arrive at Lyra, Vega, and blow up hundreds of humanoid planetoids and civilizations, and there's a huge humanoid diaspora. Now that story, which is, you could read about Prism of Lyra, Lisa Royale, who's a friend, is not the same as the Orion Wars, and at first I had that confused. That is actually a different incident. The principal center of the Orion Wars is the trapezium, which is a cube at the heart of Orion. I have a bunch of slides on this, but you can see that all on the website, fractalfield.com/fusion in the blood. Point is that at the trapezium, which is literally a cube of hugely massive stars at the heart of Orion, lies the most powerful stargate in our galaxy. And of course, that's what you have a war over, just like you have a war over the airports and train stations. Well, the war is over the biggest stargate, and that biggest stargate was the heart of Orion. And that trapezium is actually, if you look at the ancient Japanese woodcut, you see a double light cone called Yod He Vohe Yahweh, which is the geometry of the plasma that is Orion. And where those two massive light cones converge is at the trapezium, the cubic core of the heart of Orion, and the physics of what is a stargate is the phase conjugate implosion at the center of where those pine cones kiss noses. And the more mass is involved in the pine cone, the more powerful the stargate. Because what happens is the implosion at the Planck threshold at center accelerates the longitudinals from there at golden ratio multiples of the speed of light in a virtually infinite harmonic series. So the more the implosion, the more push in the stargate. So what had happened, many, probably 500,000 years ago, a long time ago, is the Orion center had been, let's say, parasited by a group whom Elena Danaan calls the Nebu. The Nebu is effectively the Greys and the Dracos. Some of them, the Greys are all over the galaxy, but they were only quasi-humanoid, mostly what you would call unensouled. And so they, for example, the Reticulum Greys, whom we met at Montauk, whom Oliver Wendell Stevens wrote that book, Contact from Reticulum, about those Greys. So those Nebu and Greys, who were a huge parasite causing infestation across the galaxy, they had been involved on Earth for many millennia, but then they did a massive invasion